it going? I forgot to tell you about the contest thing, didn't I, Amy? I saw your comment, and then things got weird and crazy after I got off work. But if I can, I still want to do it. And then I just needed to check my blues and what I already had. I don't have all the numbers memorized yet. Can't hear me? Oh no. How about now? Can y'all hear me now? Did I make my dog cattywampus? Better? Worse? In the middle? Ah! Okay. Do something. Sorry, going handheld for a minute. Y'all can hear me now, right? I'm going to try to make y'all not sick. Okay, but it's in my hand. It's... All right, this is what I use for my lives. Can you see it? So, the bottom pieces, normally I just move it to the side, but I had to charge my phone. So I think if I put y'all back, you're not going to be able to hear me again. Hold on. Ugh. Can you hear me now? Or is it muffled again? I really need like a legit live thing. Hey, Karen. Can you hear me? Can you hear me now? I feel like the Verizon guy, who is now the Sprint guy. Okay, good. My phone's actually sideways in my thing. Sorry about that. It's part of my weird day. I didn't get my phone charged enough. All right. Hi. Hope none of you threw up from all the moving and wonderfulness. So how's everyone's week going so far? I'm going to give it a few more minutes because it's still just a couple minutes before 6 Central. I'm Eastern time zone. I'm ready for the week to already be over. But here's what we're working on today. This is for one of my fellow admins. But isn't it so pretty? So pretty and shiny. I love it. I'm going to end up with a couple more. Yes, you do. It's finally raining in Arizona. I've been to Arizona once, and the one time I went, it snowed. Oh yeah, Kirsten, I hate time zones. I have to do math. And I used to be pretty good at it. I used to work at a call center for Lowe's. I used to work at the corporate offices. So when I first started there and I was on the phones, we can only make outbound calls to people during certain time frames. So, and then we'd schedule callbacks because I did internet customer service and sales. So when we'd schedule callbacks, I always had to do math, but I had my cheat sheet. And I worked there for 5 years and still can't remember time zones. Hi, Kristen. Sorry, I really need glasses. All right, guys, so I'm going to go ahead and get started. So today I will be showing y'all how I do my elf tumbler. And this set of glitters, Amy is going to make a set online. So I'll show you and tell you the colors that I use, but it's going to be available to purchase as the elf set. And the only decals that I have on here are the belt buckle and these embellishments. I do my belt with glitter, as you can see. So, do that for a couple reasons. One, because it's glittery. It's more glittery. The other reason is I love for my decals to just be flat. I don't like layering them or seeing any ridges. Every time I make a cutting file, I make it to where it pieces together perfectly. It might be a little bit more of a headache to line everything up, but for me, the overall look is just better. Excuse me. So, I am also going to be providing the template that I use. So that's my lines and how I get these straight lines, as well as it's got, of course, the belt buckle and the embellishment to size. So you can thank Miss Amy. This is going to be provided to you for free. So I'll make sure that that gets to y'all. Now, I do want to disclaimer my file. Now, this is a file that I did create in its entirety. So, I designed it. It's not something that I got from somewhere else. It's not something that I purchased or anything like that. Yes, for free. It's one of the benefits of being a crafty monkey. Now, the way that I have the file, I'm going to show you my first version, which is what I'm actually going to be using, but I did modify it a little bit more to make it easier to use on different size tumblers. So the height and everything that I have set up is actually for the 30-ounce skinnies. But what I've done is I've made the ends longer so they can overlap. So you'll just have to adjust it based on the size that tumbler that you're using. So for example, I'm using a 20-ounce mossy oak tumbler today. So I sized it down. So I sized the entire thing down. If you're doing a traditional, like an Ozark Trail or a Yeti 20-ounce or 30 ounces, whether they're modern curves or the traditionals or the true 32s, you know, anything like that, you will have to size the pieces, some of them individually to get it. So you'll just need to measure. And what I do is I go by height and how far apart you want these things. So for the 30, I was completely fine with having additional space here. I know a lot of people on their elf tumblers, they like to have the buckle right on top of the yellow. I tried doing that, but it was too much white and too much yellow for me personally on the 30-ounce skinny. So, of course, as always, manipulate it, get it to work however you like. But the actual file itself, so you will have this nice shape
you will have at least the ratio of this belt to this buckle, where the buckle is right on that line, as well as this shape and the embellishment. So you'll have all of that to do with as you please. The colors that I am going to be using for the white, my current favorite glitter of all time, is Pearly Gates number 111. Because it looks like snow and fluff, and it's absolutely, hands down, my favorite Christmas color. And it's just white. For the green, I'm using All of You number 116. The black is Black Stallion number 4. And the yellow is Mustard Seed number 94. Get all those back in order. Yeah, you see I have one in a jar and the rest are in bags. I've already used them. But in addition to those, I have a couple others that I need to buy containers for. I'd say I have a problem, but I really don't. I have a solution. So, you're going to be seeing more from me as I'm doing some more Christmas tumblers that will coincide with bundles that Amy has. So we'll be doing a Nutcracker, Grinch, Rudolph, and Santa. I think that was all the ones I said I would do, Amy. Yeah, it's not a problem at all. It's totally a solution, Kristen. And that's, of course, not even all of my pretties that I have over here on this wall that I won't show y'all. All right. So, getting started. So, I have my tumbler. Now, I went ahead and fully prepped it, which is sanding it and cleaned it with dish soap. Let it dry. Then I went ahead and I sprayed my green. Now, as you can tell, I didn't bother going all the way to the tops and doing the bottoms because those are going to be different colors anyway. I spray my base green anyway, but truthfully, it's not necessary with this green. The first time that I did it, I did not allow my base coat to dry for long enough before I put my decals on, my template decals on. So when I pulled them, the paint chipped, which I did not realize this green was matte. It might chip too. But as you can see on this one, I did not go back and touch up the green. And that coverage is just flawless. But out of force of habit, I still like doing all of my base colors. Of course, for the white and yellow, since they're lighter colors, I always recommend base coating. So I'm going to be using just white 2X Ultra Matte White Primer. It's Rust-Oleum. And then the yellow I'm going to be using is Marigold. For your yellows, you can use a yellow spray paint or you can use a white. Again, when you have good opaque colors, your base coat doesn't have to be exact. It's just when you get into more of the translucent. And so I would just, that's why for the yellow, I picked a color that is closer. Just because, you know, yellows are nice and light and they will pick up what you base coat it with. But you can also do white. Sometimes you get a slight change in shade. So I prepped this, I spray painted it, and I have let it dry for, well, gosh, it's been like 48 hours by now, but I always let it dry overnight, so at least 24 hours to make sure that it adheres as well as possible to your prepped tumbler. And then I have my template decals I have cut out. So that is the fur, the belt, and then the pants. Now, the order that I'm doing this in is because of the order that I like to apply my glitters. You can actually do this in complete reverse with your decals. So, I have mine cut, and like I said, I have, I've modified it slightly. So, with my file, you're not going to have to add to the length. That's going to make, I promise that's going to make sense here in a minute. So what, if I can find my scissors. Oh, one thing I didn't grab. So I like doing my light colors first. I don't know why. Some people prefer to do the opposite. But I like doing my light colors first. I kind of feel like that way I know that those look good before I go on to my dark ones. So those get done, they get sealed. So where I'm currently cutting the edges, you won't have to, because like I said, I made all of these longer on the version you're going to get. So, like I said, I've had issues with when I lay decals, them chipping a little bit. I'm okay with my green chipping. I don't want my white and my yellow to chip in case they do when I put my decals over it. So, instead of pulling up and using this top part, I have mine spaced for the height of my tumbler. So I am going to use the in-betweens. So the first one I'm doing, this is the part that is in between the collar and the shirt. So I'm going to apply that where I would like it. So, and again, because it's just a template, I don't use transfer tape or anything like that. Hey, Shannon. Take it, and I am going to place it from the middle first. And then wrap it around. Until I get a nice crisp line at the top. Now, because this is going to be for my spray paint and for my glitter. So what I care about is this top line, that this is nice and flat and crisp. I don't care about this bottom part. Because like I said, I like to do my lights first. Again, so you just take it and pick it up. Like I said, I've got overlap. So you just adjust it until you're happy with it. and have a nice straight line. So then next, I'm picking up the piece that is in between the bottom of the belt and the pants. So this piece. So again, I'm going to take it, I'm going to line this peak up with this peak. If you're more anal about it lining up, you can use one of the laser light cubes. You can use the T rulers to make sure everything is perfectly straight. But I'm going to line it up, starting in the middle again. Leaving room for my belt. And then I'm going to wrap around. Pick back up, move it as I need to. So see, that's not perfectly straight. But again, I am pressing at the bottom. Bottom, because again, doing light colors, so right now I care about the white and the yellow. Make sure all the air bubbles around the edge are out. I don't care about those. Just want to make sure I've got a nice crisp line for my Mod Podge. Any questions so far? And if you wanted to do it in reverse, you could paint the top white, the bottom yellow, and then lay these other pieces on top. It's really just personal preference. I like doing it this way. Any questions? Then what I do, going to spray paint. To protect my middle section, since it's already spray painted, I use this stretch wrap. It's like saran wrap, but it's on this nice roll and it's thinner. Yes, Karen, this is a template that I designed, and well, not from my Cricut because I have a different machine, but yeah, that I printed on vinyl, and it is a template that is going to be provided to y'all for free. So, I use this to protect anytime I'm spray painting. So when I do my fabric tumblers and I need to spray paint my rims, I use this. So I'll wrap it and then put some electrical tape around that. And then that way I can still get my crisp line around the edges, but it's protected. So on this, I don't need tape. See, I just wrap it and I just kind of roll it up where I need to. This stuff also works if you're in a pinch and you run out of gloves. I will take it and then just wrap it around my fingers. I love this thing. very useful. So, like I said, I've got this all wrapped. So I'm not going to be getting any of my paints on my green. Normally spray paint in a much better, well-ventilated area, but I never do when I'm live. So, spray my white. Spray my yellow. And for the sake of time, I'm going to put it in front of my little heater I have back here for just a minute. So, I do want to note that on this one, I do have a little line that I run down. If you can see it, it's just very, very faint. I thought about adding another line to do a decal, but then I decided against it. What I did instead was I used nail tape. So I just picked the color that I liked best that was slightly off, but just enough to get a slight hint of the seam. And after I epoxy, when I go to put my belt buckle decal on, put the decal on, and then I just take the tape, go all the way down. I actually go over it, and then I take an X-Acto knife and just cut it right at the edges, so it's exactly where I need it. One thing about nail tape, it will stick very well to the epoxy initially, but especially if you're doing a thick layer of epoxy over it, it will tend to lift. So you always want to seal it. I recently have switched over to using Quick Coat from Counterculture. So that is what I used on this. So I actually used Quick Coat over, I actually used it twice. I did it over the glitter before I did my first layer of epoxy, and then I did Quick Coat over that line and my decals. And it worked great. So this has 2 layers of epoxy on it. If you haven't used Quick Coat, it is a urethane sealer. So if you are really sensitive to smells, this does have a very strong odor. But it works really well. It also works great over chunky glitters if you're doing an entirely chunky tumbler. Oh, I had one right here. So, for example, this, which I used Green Mountain number 135 blend. But because it has so much chunky in it, you know, mixes like this like to repel. So I used the epoxy method to apply my glitter. Then after that cured, I did two thin coats of Quick Coat over it. and then did my epoxy, and I didn't have any of it pulling away. Now my turner stopped partway through. So it got kind of lumpy, so I had to sand it. But now it's ready for decal, and then it'll have final epoxy. But you can see this is just one coat. It didn't get bumpy on the bottom. But see how much chunky that is and how smooth that bottom is? It's fantastic. So also after I apply my glitter, I'll use quick coat as well. Now if I'm just doing an ombre or a solid color, I'll just apply this directly over the glitter, as I do use the epoxy method. But for multicolors and designs like this, I don't want any of my glitter moving, so I will, after Mod Podge or the liquid Mod Podge is dry, I will spray with the spray Mod Podge. That makes sure that all the glitter stays in its place. This makes sure that your epoxy goes on very smoothly and gives a better layer of sealer protection. Amy, quick coat is from Counterculture. It has a lot of uses. I keep reading and seeing things that people do with it, so I have a long laundry list of things to try. But it worked really great on this. Also, if you are going to use holographic vinyl, which I think a lot of us know, holographic vinyl, it's real easy for epoxy to pull away from it because of its slick coating on the front, and it also lifts sometimes. I've been putting quick coat over, regardless what type of tumbler I'm doing, I've been putting quick coat over my holographic vinyl decals, and I haven't had any issues since. So it is a VOC free clear non-yellowing sealer that can be applied, well, to 3D crate, but I've used it on a lot of stuff, especially things that have texture, and it just helps it go on smoother. So this is starting to dry up some, so I've got my basic base coat. I'm going to pull this off. And now I am going to start glittering. Punch down. So I'm going to glitter before I pull these. So that makes sure that I have a nice crisp line for my paint as well as for my glitter. So I am using my plaid brush, got from Walmart. So I'm going to do my yellow first. And you don't have to keep it on this. I just like to, for these smaller tumblers, it gives me more range of motion. And then, especially when I'm doing the bottoms, I don't have to worry about setting it down. I've got one of these metal things I found at Lowe's. So I'm going to apply just a nice, generous coat of my Mod Podge. Make sure it is as smooth as I can. And I do go in both directions, so I go away from the edge of my template as well as toward it, which is one of the reasons you want to make sure you've got a good seal, so when you're going toward it, your Mod Podge doesn't pool underneath it and then give you a funny edge. I'm going to take my mustard seed. I always start on my rim first. And then the rest. So after I do that, I always kind of press it into the bottom. Now, because I'm using one of these mossy oak tumblers that has this ridge in the bottom, as well as the raised logo, I will go back and do a second coat of this, of the glitter, just to help clean it up and or cover it up. But as you can see on this, this is one coat of the yellow, but this tumbler doesn't have that crease in it. That was almost a disaster. My floor is totally covered with glitter anyways, for me wiping stuff off. So then I pull this before I do my next coat, because when you pull this, you're going to have some fall. And I don't want it to fall down on my white glitter when the Mod Podge may still be tacky. But you do want to pull immediately, or at least very quickly. Otherwise, you won't get as crisp of an edge, and you may even get some chipping from where paint has dried on both parts, or your glitter may just get kind of clumpy. All right, backtracking. Do you put the quick coat on chunky glitter before putting epoxy over it? Yes, that's correct, Kristen. When I use quick coat on my chunky glitter, I use, sorry, I'm gonna get down here. I use the epoxy method. So after I do my thin coat, I apply that and I let it dry overnight, where it's no longer tacky or anything, and then I take my quick coat and I will do 2 thin layers, And a little bit goes a long way with the quick coat. So, let's see. So, that's where my quick coat is right now. And I've done, I don't know how many tumblers of, I'd say I've done at least 15 or 20 tumblers using it over glitter and fabric and stuff like that. So a little bit does go a long way. Because I looked at it at first, I didn't buy it for a while, and I was like, oh, that's kind of a lot for 8 ounces. But it does, a little bit does go a long way. So for my chunky, yes, that's how I use it. For this tumbler, after this Mod Podge is completely dry, I'm going to use my spray Mod Podge, and then once that dries, I'll quick coat it before epoxy as well. The quick coat, I use a large flat brush. I have one that is just for quick coat. So you just use this. Just make sure not to leave it out because it will like permanently jack up your brush. If I do, I just have another plaid. And I pour a little bit into one of my medicine cups and dip it. And then anything that I don't use, because I always over pour because it doesn't take very much. Anything I don't use, I just pour back into the bottle. So now, Pearly Gates 111. My all-time favorite. Oh no, there's a piece of purple in here. Need to stop using the same paper. Oh no, it's not purple, it's green. Where is... There we go. And then I'm going to peel. All right. Then I've got another nice crisp line. So after you do that, I'll give it a few taps on its side, somewhere where I don't mind if the two colors mix. And then I'm gonna hit it with quick spray Mod Podge, mainly around the edges, just to make sure that I get a nice crisp edge. Then I would let this dry for a couple hours, but again, I'm going to put it in front of my heater for a little bit. And then just be a little careful. Thanks, Karen. Yeah, I probably back up here while that's waiting. Yes, I love all the Christmas things. My husband has never seen this movie in its entirety, and it makes my heart sad. I told him we would watch it after Thanksgiving. But I'm going to show you a few other things I'm working on. So, have this. This is, again, Pearly Gates, because as I've told y'all, I'm obsessed with it. And then I'm going to take, which one is it? I'm going to take this Coffee Bean 168. I'm going to Mod Podge over the drips. So I'm going to have glitter drips. Yes, Karen, you can do the same method for Santa, which I started one and then I realized I forgot part of the template. That's going to be another thing that you can make with these kits. And I have one in progress. Like I said, I just kind of messed it up. But he's supposed to have, you know, the fur at the bottom. But this is the start of a Santa can. Like I said, I got overly excited. Hello, Chris. So, this is Pearly Gates and Rudolph number 185. And again, all of these that I'm doing for these sets, all of the template files that I'm using, I'm going to make those available exclusively for Crafty Monkey members. So, yes, you can totally do the same type of thing. I just, instead of starting over from scratch, I'm going to spray this one down, and then I'm going to do my bottom part over it. So I've got that one, and then there was, again, Pearly Gates, because I'm obsessed, and it should go on every winter tumbler you do. This is going to be my Frosty. I'm working on a design for that. Amy already said how I applied the quick coat. I just use my brush, pour it into a small container, and then pour anything that I don't use back into the jar. Super easy. It's just like using regular Mod Podge, only it's a thinner liquid urethane. Oh, Karen, you need to open it. Open all the things. So I've also got this one. Hey, Amy, I thought I just talked about it a minute ago, too. Maybe I didn't. My days are running together. It's super liquidy. I just pour a little bit into a cup. I have a separate plaid brush that I use. And then I just dip it in there. A little bit goes a long way. You can see the shine. Just do a quick coat. A quick coat of quick coat. Just do a quick thin layer. Then let it dry. You can use a heater like I am too. It dries by itself in like 15-20 minutes. So it's a real thin layer. And urethane sealers dry real quickly anyway. And then, depending on what I'm doing, I may do a second coat. And then you can do epoxy. If you are applying, I know I didn't say this before, if you are applying quick coat over liquid Mod Podge, you have to make sure that all of the Mod Podge underneath your glitter is 100% dry. I recommend letting it dry overnight, because if you don't, the moment you apply quick coat to your glitter, it's going to turn white. So any of you that make that make fabric tumblers, that have seen where a seal is broken and that moisture gets underneath your fabric and it becomes that white cloudy, it basically looks like it does like this, that will happen. It will, speaking from personal experience, it will dry up a little bit, but it will never go 100% clear, because your quick coat is going to dry faster than your Mod Podge will. So your Mod Podge stays a little damp underneath there. Damn, like I said, happened to me. Don't let it happen to you. I think those are all of. I think those are all the holiday ones that I started already. I've been stripping tumblers, so I'm going to do my Grinch and then the Nutcracker. I just started. Wait. Oh yeah, I've got the tumbler down here to start for my Nutcracker too. And like I said, all of those templates that I use are going to be free for y'all. So, now that this is set and it's dry, so I can touch it. I'm not going to have a ton of glitter going everywhere. And this also ensures that when I'm putting my next color, that there's not still the wet Mod Podge down here that it may try to adhere to. So any transfer is just going to be temporary. So the next color I'm going to do is my green. So that means that I need my belt. So I use this part in between the fur and the belt. I use this part in between the belt and the pants. Now I want the belt itself. And remember, when you are sizing your template, you want to make sure that as you're sizing it up or down, you are sizing your belt and the buckle decal at the same time. So again, I eyeball. Now this one, instead of just needing one side, top or bottom, to be flat, you need both. So any creases or wrinkles, you're going to want to make sure that they're in the middle. So I'm going to lay this down, spin it around, lay it down, spin it around. And try to line it up well. As I mentioned before, I want straight lines. Sometimes I will use these T-levels. Not T-levels. T-rulers. And then I can see where I started. And I know how far down it goes. So I know that I need to bring this side higher. And I mean, and for the belt, you could just use a piece of tape, painter's tape or something. You just have to measure it and adjust the buckle to make sure that it's the right width. So I'm going to take this, and if you don't see, so that's where my crease is, right there in the middle. So I went through and I pressed and stretched so it's flat over here, which is what I want. So if you've got just a little shortage there from measuring, or mine, I was folding part of it under because it wasn't lining up exactly how I wanted to. Take tape. That's what I actually did on this one, because originally when I made the file, which is this file here, I made it to where the two pieces would line up perfectly, and nobody's perfect. So in the new one, like I said, you have room to overlap it and move it some. But because it wasn't completely straight, slight curves, the top of this is slightly larger than the bottom, I used tape on my backs here to fill in the gaps. And as long as you get a nice clean edge that your Mod Podge can't get under, you're good. So see, just like that. Excuse me. So for this, you want to make sure that you've got a real good quality flat brush so that you can get into that point. So I use this brush because I can get that nice clean edge all the way up there. If you do not have a brush that will get you that nice thin edge, just use a small detail brush. Now, what I do, the edges of where you apply your Mod Podge tend to have less Mod Podge and dry out first. So what I do first is get a good layer in the middle. I will go all the way up to this because it's just a straight line, but down here I'll leave room, and that's going to be the last thing that I do. I'm going to get a good healthy layer because I'm going to be pulling some of that down and up. This is a plaid brush. I found it in the craft section at Walmart. So they've got individual ones, they've got sets. I think I've purchased 2 different sets. But I think they're pretty standard at most Walmarts. My Walmart has like next to nothing, and we have them. So I assume every Walmart does. But, or you can buy them on Amazon. They have them at Hobby Lobby and Michael's too. So now that I've got a good thick layer that I know is not going to dry out, I'm going to start taking, try to show you this as best I can. Again, with a good amount of Mod Podge, I'm going to take it and I'm just going to lay right at the edge and go up to it. See? Isn't it nice? They last a good long time too. They're super soft and they clean up really well. So again, I'm laying it down. So I don't want to pull towards it because then you don't have as much control about the edge and you're going to end up overlapping a little bit too much. And I don't want to just tap because then you can actually get too thick of a layer of Mod Podge around your edge. But by doing it at this angle, you get a good amount and then you can pull down. Just don't look at my mouth while I do this because I'm one of those people that holds my mouth funny. Mod Podging, laying decals, and playing video games. So I run out. I just want a little bit more on my on the tip. I'll pull up from here a little bit just to get more. And then back around my edge. Yes, it's the concentration phase. Sometimes the makeup phase, as you can tell, I gave up on makeup a long time ago. I'm too tired. I'm married. I have kids. Sometimes I put it on. I put it on more when I go out with my girlfriends than when I go out with my husband or any point in time in life. So, so now I'm going to scrape off the excess with my brush. That's also going to move all of my bristles to that nice point. I'm going to dip it in ever so slightly. Actually, that's too much on one end. Dip it in ever so slightly. Oh no, Brenda, I said something about my mouth and now you're not going to be able to stop looking at it. Don't look up. Look here. Look here. But, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go in at the point and then follow it. See, like that. And then I can go back to this method again once I get down enough. And again, if you're using a different template that doesn't have that steep of a pull, then you don't necessarily have to do it. And then same thing, I'm going to do this again. So I've got my edge. Yes, Shantae. Oh, thank you, Brenda. Yeah, like I said, you can you can do this in reverse if you prefer. If you don't have that steady of a hand, then I would recommend doing it in reverse, and then that way you have a lot more pulling down and away, and that might be helpful to you. Yes, the template, I created it and I'm going to be providing it to all you crafty monkeys free of cost. Of course, one of your perks. So I've got a layer of Mod Podge, but again, you can see some of these places are starting to dry a little bit. So just like anything else, I'm going to go over it with the brush one more time from top to bottom. Just kind of a quick pass. It's also going to smooth everything over for the best glitter application so that you're not going to see any streaks. but not nearly as delicate of a hand needed as the first time. Just pulling up and down and touching up any edges that are starting to dry. Oh, you're very welcome, Brenda. Okay. Now I'm going to apply all of you number 116. And Brenda, the file does include the template as well as the decal for the buckle and the embellishments. So the embellishment and the buckle is a decal. Everything else is from a template. Yeah. So, get back over here a little bit. And then this I apply at the side. It helps minimize any transfer of the glitter onto what I have already glittered. But again, it's dry, so any transfer is just temporary. I feel like I've said again a lot. So, this. So, as you can see, now I did apply green over some of that white on the edge. Yet, there are very few specks of green in that white. And those will come off with a brush after everything's dry. It'll come right off. And you'll have nice, clean lines. I love how everyone has a different Grinch green. I know that Amy had posted a thread and she and I had the same conversation when we were discussing what green I was going to get to do the Grinch. And I think a lot of it depends on which Grinch you think of. Are you thinking of the original cartoon? Are you thinking about the Jim Carrey live action? I guess considered live action. Are you thinking about the latest cartoon Grinch? You know, are you thinking about the books? They're all different colors. But when I think, I like this for Grinch too. I just really like that color. I love all greens. But when I think of the Grinch, oh, and the books, he was a different color in the book, the original book, books than he was in the original cartoon as well. When I think of the Grinch, he is much more limey. So, number 283 is my Grinch green. But I love seeing other people's Grinch green. Alright, so now I'm going to do the same thing, but against the yellow. So I'm going to do this much more quickly. But I did consider this green for my Grinch green as well. Is that the name of it with the number Cactus? Cactus 283? I really need to write things down. Cactus green 283. That's my Grinch green. I think that's one a lot of people voted for, put their opinion on. So again, tapping and pulling down, tapping and pulling down. Don't get too much at the edge. If you get too much Mod Podge at the edge, you get this kind of hump, chunky glitter. but it also means that it's going to take a lot longer to dry. Oh, thanks, Amy. Hey, Kristen. Got a lot of Kristens on here tonight. I should have never said anything about my mouth, should I have? Yes, tapping, pulling down, holding your mouth just right. All right, I relate it to who's seen The Incredibles? I'd just like to say that in order for us to be friends, you need to have seen The Incredibles. I don't care how old you are. I went to see the movie in theater and owned it before I had a kid. So, you know when Mr. Incredible, or at the beginning too, and when Mr. Incredible is like feeling all good and getting back in shape, the kids are making fun of their mom while she's feeding Jack. Because Jack's, eating, he's like, like kids do, like trying to get it, and it's falling out of his mouth, and their mom's like kind of mimicking the motions that he's making as she's trying to like scoop up the food. That's how I envision my mouth. I don't know that's really it, but kind of those, I don't know, weird things. Well, Disney and Pixar movies are always a good idea. You're never too old for Disney and Pixar movies. I'm actually making a Tumblr that has that on there. I'm currently obsessed. I signed up for Disney Plus. I went ahead and paid for the entire year subscription. And so I've been doing nothing but watching Disney and Pixar movies. Well, not nothing, but I've only been watching Disney and Pixar movies. And The Simpsons. They have all 30 seasons of The Simpsons. So I'm pretty stoked about that as well. All right. Oh no, your kids have no interest? My daughter, she was obsessed with Shrek. Like, super obsessed with Shrek. Like, the Christmas mini movie, like when there was only like 2 movies, like the first one and then the Christmas special, the first Christmas special that they did, she would want to watch that Christmas special over and over. Quiet! My dogs are getting restless down here. Over and over and over again. And that was one of the movies that wouldn't automatically replay after a certain amount of time when it got to the menu screen. And so it's just this really short song that they made up for it. And it was one of the, there's certain songs and things that will wake you up from a dead sleep on repeat. And that was one of them. And so we'd fall asleep watching it and it would wake me up. I would have nightmares with that song. All right. So, we've got both our greens. I'm going to call it whoopsie tape for whoopsie, that didn't fit exactly right. I'll pull the tape first. So let's see, what time is it? All right, so just to check in, it is 8:10. I started this probably around 8:10. So anyone that tells you, or any of you that think that you cannot do a full tumbler like this in one sitting with Mod Podge and templates, you can. You can. You just have to make sure that you're sealing right. Do it. That's why I do it in the order that I do. So I'm starting on the outside, then I do this. So I start here. Excuse me, I started here, then went here. So this is drier than this. So my next one, I come back and do this one. So this has had more time to dry than that. Then I do over here. So that's had more time to dry. You can totally do it. I can do a full plaid tumbler in, I think it took me about an hour and 45 minutes on a live while I was talking and doing stuff as well. So you can totally do it in one sitting if you have the patience for it. Or you can break it up. But it's totally doable if you end up getting a bunch of orders for these to bust them out. It is doable. You just need to find kind of the strategy that works for you. This is the strategy that has worked for me, so wanted to share. And show off these totally awesome colors. Only one more. Mickey Christmas. I came downstairs the other night, or upstairs or something. I don't know. I went into the living room and my husband was just sitting. No, it was Saturday. Yeah, I did go downstairs. Not that that matters to y'all whatsoever. But my husband, he tried to turn it off real quick, but he was watching Muppet Christmas. He loves the Muppet movies. We have them all, but he loves them. He was watching them, but for some reason he's embarrassed. Don't be embarrassed. I stayed up late one night in bed watching Finding Dory because it came out and I wanted to. I didn't watch it with any of my children. Yes, Kirsten, I'm going to spray it on there. I always like to give my liquid Mod Podge a little bit of time to dry, which is what I'm doing now with the heater, before I put any spray on there, because I don't want to spray seal any moisture from this Mod Podge underneath it, because then it just takes it longer to dry. So where my other two pieces had a little bit more time to dry, so that's what I'm doing. Okay, and the one time you tried Mod Podge, it dried so fast my glitter wouldn't stick. Do you remember what type of Mod Podge it was? There's so many. Some of them do dry a lot quicker than others. I use the matte, and it's all about the type of brush you use and the amount you put on. I used to use the foam brushes, but the foam brushes just absorb so much of the Mod Podge, it's harder to get a good thick layer. And then, yes, you'll run into issues where your Mod Podge is drying way faster than you need. But also, if you're just being a lot more careful and applying, you can do this in phases. You can Mod Podge a section, glitter it, and then move on to the other one. You'll just need to either rinse out or have different brushes, because you're going to get some glitter on your brush. Yeah, Karen, I still have some foam brushes. If I'm doing a real basic, fast application of my glitter or something more basic, I will still use them from time to time. Or if before I really got into using quick coat on my fabric tumblers, I would use them to seal the fabric on my tumblers all the time, the foam brushes, because it's absorbing into fabric. You don't have to worry about applying anything else. But for stuff like this, you really want some soft bristled. So again, this is the plaid flat. I got these from Walmart, but they've got them at basically every craft store. Some of them have different color handles. I think that just has to do with size. But these are really great. They're good quality without, so like you're not going to have loose bristles coming out. They clean up really well. I use the pink soap for all of my brush cleaning. So again, spray a little bit. Again, I'm mainly focusing on my edges, because I'll seal the entire thing after I'm done. And try a little bit more. So, who here uses fabric on tumblers? Anyone? Anyone at all? I love using fabric on tumblers. And I know I've said this in the group like a million bajillion times, but I feel like it's my sole responsibility for the public service announcement, because I'm so madly in love with Pearly Gates 111. It's great on the edges of your rims, but if you do use fabric for tumblers or anything else, and you're like me, especially if you're buying these custom fabrics, I found a fantastic thing to do with your scraps. Look how cute the badge reels are. They're so adorable. I have this whole drawer full of scraps, and some of them aren't much bigger than this. And I was like, well, it's just too pretty, and I like it. So I started doing badge reels. Just starting with glitter. Yeah, I started with glitter. Actually, I started with mermaid glitter. I started with a terrible thing to start. It was so incredibly frustrating. I'm amazed I continue to do it. Scared to try fabric. Oh, it is so much fun. And it's actually really easy. The main trick is just getting your seams and your edges. But yes, the edging tools are fantastic to use. That's what I use. Actually, I have two edging tools. I have ones from the two main folks. So I have the cup edging tool from Wicked Shimmer, the original cup edging tool. And then I have one from Kristen. I can't remember her last name. But she sells them occasionally. Very different. Oh, Karen, you went into chunky ombre. I still don't like chunky ombres. I don't like ombres in general. I'm too OCD. They never look the way I want to. But I do have these wonderful fabrics, and I do love them. If we need a fabric tutorial, Amy, I'm totally down. Yeah, I've got a giant Tupperware container full of fabric that I bought from various places, individual places that sell tumbler cuts directly from the custom printers. Stuff. My mom's a sewer. She quilts a lot. So some of it is just cute fabrics that she has when she's gone through and purged and said, Sarah, this has skulls on it. I feel like it's all you. And so she'll bring me some stuff. But yes, I definitely recommend getting one of the cup edging tools. I also recommend getting the Roby Cube laser levels for your back seams. They have them for about $14 at Home Depot. And then you can make fabric tumblers, and then you can put pink and purple monkey glitters on the rims to give it pop. The laser cube, it's a laser level. So it'll cast a line for you to cut your seam so your seam is straight, which is like super hard if you're doing like the 30-ounce Ozark Trail Yeti styles. But because it's a laser level, you lay it down, it'll cast it directly up. I have one, but the batteries are dead in it, so I can't show you right now. I've got to go get a new little tiny one. But just a little mini laser. So it's got these to make sure that your surface is completely level, and then you turn it on and turn it upside down, and then it'll cast the line all the way up. Yeah. But yeah, here are these are the edging tools. I like to try varieties of things. So yeah, I use the level, and then I use electrical tape to tape it off, and then I use a rotary cutter. I'll do a tutorial later on it. I just like having things to chat about while my stuff is drying. Because the other option is for me to start like 5 of these cups, you know, like they do on cooking shows. You put something into the oven and then magically it comes out because you've already cooked it. And I love these tumblers, but I don't need like 12 of them because I'm also doing this tutorial in the group that I admin. So I'd have like 14. All right, so last glitter color. This is real easy. Instead of starting at the middle, I'm going to start at the edge and tap and pull halfway through, and then I'm going to tap and pull the other direction. I thought about doing a different color elf shirt, but I just like the green better. Because I didn't want to do red. It's too much like Santa, but it's not Santa. Blue would look kind of uniformy. So that's kind of almost like Nutcracker-ish. But you could do, I mean, you always do like pinks and purples, because I mean, there's girl elves too. I mean, I like green. I was an elf, I'd still wear green. But different colors would be really cute for like the kid sizes, kid tumblers for the elf too. So you should buy the package and then make some with different colors too. And then post them all. Make a bunch and then post pictures so I can live vicariously. Because I'm not supposed to buy any more tumblers except for orders that I have until after Christmas. So I've been a real big stripper recently. Stripping old tumblers that I started, didn't know what I wanted to put on or didn't like, or some ones that I've had made for a while that didn't sell. So I can strip it, do something else. That's where this one came from. I don't buy built anymore. This one, this was one of my first fabric ones, I think, that I just didn't like. I didn't like it enough to sell. My back seam was wonky. It was before I found the laser level. Alright, got that. So now we're just going to smooth it all out so it's not super wonky. All right. Last one is Black Stallion number 4. Amy, I need to know what glitter is number 5. What color glitter is number 5? I feel real bad if I have number 5 and don't know it. But I do. I need to know what color number 5 is. I'm gonna need it to be renamed to Mambo. Mambo number 5. And if it's already called Mambo, we might be soulmates. I'm just gonna throw that out there. Purple Mist. I feel like a purple can be a Mambo. Mambo, purple. I was thinking something kind of like red mauve-ish. Yeah, I feel like Purple Mist needs to be changed to Mambo so it can be Mambo number 5. Because, you know, I have a say in your business and how you name your glitters. I'm just saying. It'd be fantastic. So, da-da-da-da. All glittered. Look how nice and sparkly. So that is all using the template. So, like I said previously, because I used a built that has this horrible seam and this raised thing, I will need a second layer of our mustard seed number 94. So I will do a second layer, but if you do not use one of these tumblers that has that seam and the raised part for the bottom, you'd be fine. You wouldn't need to do any other layers. So as you can see, coverage is spectacular. So my next steps is just like before, I'll let that dry. Then I'm going to use a chip brush. Let me me put this in there and then I'll show you chip brush. So I have a chip brush. I got it at Walmart in a package of like 3 different types of chip brush. It literally says chip brush on it. Not in... I think at Walmart it's in the craft section. I could be wrong, but I think it is in the craft section too. If not, it's definitely in the paint section. This is a chip brush. Don't use a chip brush to Mod Podge. Bristles will come out. It's wonky. You don't have good edges. But what chip brushes are good for is brushing off excess glitter. They're fantastic. So after this is all dried, like I said, you see there's minimal transfer around the edges, but that's really just from the texture. It's not that it's actually Mod Podge to it. So you take your chip brush. This is just a 1 inch. I think I have a 2 inch as well. And you're just going to lightly, you're not going to put a lot of pressure, so you don't want to see the brush doing this ever. You're just going to take it and brush. And glitter's going to go everywhere. You're going to take it, brush it off, so that gets any loose glitter off. Then you're going to go lightly over the entire thing with a spray sealer. And I use Mod Podge. And that is just to make sure that the glitter stay in place. After that, I use Quick Coat Urethane Sealer. Now you don't have to. You can go over it with a few layers of spray Mod Podge. You can go over it with a few layers of the liquid Mod Podge. You don't have to go over it again with another sealer. I like going over it because getting a good seal over that glitter means that it's going to take less epoxy because it's got a seal. The glitter is not going to absorb. I do highly recommend that you spray seal it with something, because if you just use the chip brush, it will get most of it off, but the pressure of applying the epoxy to it will still transfer some of the glitter. So you're just not going to get as crisp of lines. Now, that may be totally fine. Not everybody does it the same way, and that's one of the things that I love about this craft. Everybody does things differently. Sometimes when I do my glitter rims on fabric cups, sometimes I want them to be perfectly, sometimes I want that transfer. Yes, Kristen, I did quick coat over my decals as well. Now that's something that I've recently started doing over all of my decals. The main advantage over regular Oracle, permanent Oracle 651 is that, you know, you apply it and you're supposed to let it sit. Applying quick coat to it, make sure it's not going to lift. I started just applying it on my holographic vinyl because that has a tendency to lift a lot. And also because it's so slick, the epoxy has a tendency to pull away from it a little bit more as it's spinning. So I definitely recommend using it over your holographic vinyl. One of the reasons I used it over this is because I used nail tape for my line right here instead of vinyl, and that absolutely will lift. It doesn't stick incredibly well because it's made to have a clear coat of nail polish over it for the design. So I did for this, all I did, because it was applied after epoxy, I only Mod Podged over that, this decal, these decals, and that. I didn't even go over the entire cup. Just the decals. And you can't tell because it dries so clear. Yes. So yeah, my next steps: spray seal, or excuse me, dry, chip brush, spray seal. I'll do one coat of quick coat over it, and then epoxy. So as I was saying previously, took me about an hour and a half to do this. So put this in front of the heater, or even just leave it down here for another hour. It'll be dry. All the Mod Podge will be dry. I can spray it. This will be dry in 20-30 minutes. I would normally let it sit because it's a quick, just a thin coat. Quick coat is going to dry in 15 minutes or so. So it is entirely possible for me to Mod Podge, glitter, seal, and epoxy this cup in a single night. So while the time spent on the tumbler is more than just glittering, your actual time frame on delivering this to a customer doesn't have to change. Yes, Karen. The buckle is a decal. I try not to glitter things that small. You could do it. If with the file that I'm providing, you could cut this and slice against the belt, and you could possibly glitter that as well. I'm not going to. Yes, that is a decal. These embellishments are decals, and then of course the name is offset decal. Oh yeah, Brenda, it doesn't brush it on because there's no longer any anything adhesive on there. So there's nothing to stick to, and that's one of the reasons that these chip brushes work so well, because see, the bristles are kind of everywhere. So when you're brushing, it's not brushing it further down the cup, it's actually brushing it kind of into the air, which is why glitter gets everywhere. Yeah, I forget where I saw, I think it was on a glitter plaid tutorial that I watched. That was when I first saw somebody using these chip brushes to brush off the glitter. Before, honestly, I was like blowing on it. I was like trying to blow it off, or trying to use my finger. And your finger works some, but what I found that I do is when I'm using my finger, I'm applying too much pressure than with the brush that you can flick more. See, I can already go over this and get any of that black transfer, which I don't know how well you can see the black stallion that's on the green. But see on my hand, the black's coming off. There's a tiny bit of the green, but not really, because there's only a few flecks of green, because I sealed the edge with the spray. Da da da. Now I'll do the same thing down here. Okay, this is basically already dry. So I'll do this. Alright guys, well if there's no other questions, then I'm going to hop off here. Thanks for coming and hanging out with me. And we'll make a post when, to let you know when the template file is available. As I said previously, just know that you may need to modify the size based on the tumbler that you're using. The file itself is sized for this tumbler with excess to overlap. I also, when I created it, when I changed it for y'all, is I made this bottom section a lot longer, because I know that, as I said previously, some people prefer the pants to be right up next or right up underneath the belt buckle, and for a 30 ounce to bring the buckle down here, there'd be a whole lot of green. But of course, you don't have to line everything up. You can place it, adjust it as needed. I tried to make it extra long, but if you do need more, just take some tape, because the back should be completely straight. So it should be easy if your pieces don't wrap all the way around. The main thing that you need is this area. And of course, you get the file, you have questions, you want to come back and see more. This live is going to be saved in the tutorials album, and if you have any questions, feel free to post them, comment down there. I'm happy to answer anything that I can. Alright guys, you have a good night.